Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says there is, quote, more to come after the U.S. launched strikes on ISIS targets in Nigeria on Christmas. He didn't elaborate on what that more is that he was referring to. A U.S. official tells CNN the strikes in northwestern Nigeria included Tomahawk missiles fired from a Navy vessel that struck two ISIS camps. And we are now seeing some new images of police in that region examining a small crater with burned areas. U.S. military officials do report multiple terrorists they say were killed in that attack. CNN national security analyst Beth Sanner joins me now. Beth, it's always good to talk to you and get your perspective on moments like this. So the Nigerian foreign minister telling CNN this was a collaborative effort between the U.S. and his country. Nigeria's president gave the go-ahead before the strikes took place. But the fact that we hear Pete Hegseth saying there is more to come, what could that more look like in your view?
Yeah, well, it could look like more strikes in that particular region, but in northwest Nigeria, where the strike took place, is actually not the hotbed of kind of Islamic attacks as much as the northeast. And viewers may recognize the name Boko Haram, but there's another ISIS affiliate there as well that is doing quite a bit of damage in the northeast. So we could see this shift to the northeast where there are these bigger, more established groups, maybe more targets, because in the northwest where this took place, really this isn't the place where there are a lot of attacks on Christians from the Islamic groups. But it is a place where the United States and Nigeria want to prevent the encroachment of these larger Islamic groups and the affiliations that are going on in the neighboring countries where these kinds of attacks are at really heightened pitch.
It's so interesting because we do have officials from both countries saying, yes, this was a collaborative effort. The Nigerian president gave the go-ahead, but the reasoning for these strikes is different because the U.S. and President Trump very clear this was about Christianity, frankly, and Nigerian officials saying very clearly this is not about religion. This is about terrorism. This is about public safety. When you have these for these differing reasons behind this action, what does that say about future collaboration?
Well, I think the United States understands that there's a bigger terrorist threat in the region and an Islamic threat that threatens stability in the region. I think that is something that is understood by the military and probably understood very well by the White House. But the messaging here, to me, is about domestic messaging. It's about messaging to the Republican base, where this idea of protecting Christians is very, very heartfelt, and these are real things happening. It's just that in Nigeria, a very ethnically and religiously diverse country where people are split about equally between Christians and Muslims, there are as many, actually more attacks against Muslims.
Right. There is certainly a lot to focus on in that region. We're going to continue to cover it. I do, though, before I let you go, Beth, I do want to get your take on what we're seeing in Israel, what we're seeing in Gaza. We know that Prime Minister Netanyahu is set to meet with President Trump in Florida on Monday. What's interesting to me is everything that is playing out at once. There is so much focus, rightfully so, on Gaza. But the fact that we now have 12 European countries, plus Canada and Japan, condemning Israel's latest approval of new settlements in the West Bank. With all of this happening at once and the increase in activity in the West Bank, how does it figure into the negotiations about Gaza and further implementing that peace plan?
Yeah, it is very linked because for two reasons. One is Defense Minister Katz said earlier this week that they were going to extend Israeli settlements inside Gaza on the side of the yellow line that Israel controls. He then quickly retracted it, but then again doubled down on that today. So these things are very linked from that perspective, and also because moving forward in terms of the whole idea of peace in the region depends on this idea of a Palestinian state. That is what the Saudis say. We're not going to recognize Israel without some credible path. But this is an effort not just by settlers, but by members of Netanyahu's government to actually create facts on the ground that prevent any prospect for a pathway to a real Palestinian state. And so you can't separate these things out. And, meanwhile, every single day, there's violence against Palestinians in the West Bank, multiple cases, and they really go generally without any punishment or retribution from or any punishment from the government, and in many cases are encouraged by the far right wing members.
Yeah, certainly important to keep an eye on activity in both areas. Beth, really appreciate it. As always, thank you.